Uh, Before we dive into 2D arrays, let's quickly recall what arrays are. An array is a collection of elements of the same data type stored in contiguous memory locations. So we use arrays when we want to store multiple values under a single variable name. Now imagine we want to store information in a grid or table format or in a matrix-like format, like a spreadsheet or a tic-tac-toe board. So that is where 2D arrays come in. A 2D array is like an array with both rows and columns, allowing us to store data in a structured and tabular format. So you know that a 1D array or a list was declared as follows: 10 elements, and you could have probably initialized it with 10 different values, right, etc. So 2D arrays are similar. So we have int, it can be a matrix or a grid. So let's put it as a matrix because it has rows and columns. Now we have two parameters here. The first parameter is the rows. So let's say I want 3 rows. And the second parameter is the columns, 3 columns. And this is how you initialize a 2D array or a matrix. Okay, so this is the first row. So let my first row elements be 10, 20, and 30. This is my second row. Let's say minus 99, minus 89, minus 79. And this is my third row, which is, let's say, 1, 2, and 3, semicolon. Okay, so this is how you declare a matrix or a 2D array with 3 rows and 3 columns. So the first row is row 0, row 1, and followed by row 2. Similarly, column 0, column 1, and column 2. Now, if you do not want to initialize it manually, we can use the random number generator. There's also a second way of initializing a matrix. So it is similar to your first method, 3 rows and 3 columns. But instead of dividing them into rows, I can just write all of them in a single go. So 10, 20, 30, minus 99, minus 89, minus 79, and then 1, 2, and 3. So the compiler is automatically going to put them in rows and columns, which you have specified here. But of course, you can see that this method is much more convenient because you can clearly see what the row elements are. Now, if we don't want this, let's say I can use a random number generator to initialize the matrix. And to initialize it, I'm going to require two variables, I and j. Remember, in the list or in the 1D array, you required only I to index into the array. But now, since you have a matrix with rows and columns, we are going to use I and j. So, so for I equals to 0, so I controls the rows to the last row. So row 0, row 1 up to row 2. And for every row, access every column. So j equals to 0, j less than or equals to 2, j plus plus. So for every row, you're accessing each column. So this goes here, and this would be matrix of I and j equals to the random number. So this is fill the matrix with random numbers. I have reduced the range of my random numbers to be between 1 to 20. Okay. Now, this is the initialization part. I can also write a code to print. Of course, I can just write it directly here, printf. percentile D space matrix I J. And after printing every row, I'm going to print a new line so that my display can look in the form of a matrix. So let's run this code. So as you can see, this is my matrix. Row 0 has the elements 2, 9, and 13 in columns 0, 1, and 2. Row 1 has the elements 17, 10, and 9 in columns 0, 1, and 2. And row 2 has the elements 12, 10, and 4 in columns 0, 1, and 2. So this is how you can declare and initialize a matrix or a 2D array.